Hey, Vlad, welcome to my podcast, my startup podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Hey, Brandon. Nice to have me here on the podcast. I'm really excited. So let's get it started.
Absolutely, yeah. The product that you built, the innovation that you guys have come up with is very fascinating. I've been looking at you guys' website, all the performance enhancements, everything that it's delivering to your customers. But before we jump into that, do you mind just telling me a bit about your background? I know, of course, you're from Ukraine. How do you end up in this space? What led up to it beforehand?
So I was born and I grew up in Ukraine, and I built my career in a bit unusual way. So I'm actually a doctor of medicine initially. So even with honors. So I used to be a surgeon, a military surgeon specifically.
Okay.
So the war even touched me a little bit. Well, nothing compared to people on the actual front lines, but still. So I was pretty much just into the tech, into the science, inventions, and everything since my early childhood. And I really wanted to become a surgeon specifically. So that was my childhood dream, to do some amazing stuff related to medicine, to healthcare, to science in general. However, I was unlucky in my childhood to have a bicycle incident that almost made me permanently disabled. So I was not able to walk at all for like 1.5 years. I had multiple surgeries and everything. And that kind of made me do a pivot in my dreams and everything. So I was still in denial whether I can be a surgeon, because that specific job requires you to have long standing sessions, if I may say so,
Sure.
surgery itself. So I actually graduated from the university and went through my internship or residentship in surgery in the military hospital in Odessa. It's been quite difficult for me from the perspective of the my condition. So eventually I decided that I need to just do something easier for my health. And of course, the entire war situation and everything did not help that much. So it was like 10 years ago, initially, when the war in Ukraine started in 2014. I was very lucky to be in the first year of my residentship when it all started. So it actually made it quite difficult. However, I have been in the tech since like my almost childhood. So I was very into programming and everything. When I was a teenager, I built my small, I would say, garage style startup, where I just with my friends we built a small 3D engine. We actually had a few customers, paying customers, so it was
Nice.
quite a journey. At that point, after the surgery residentship, I was like, yeah, I need to return to the actual software engineering and everything. I never gave up on the idea of having it. So even while studying university, I still had my projects, and it was just earning me some money and everything. So I never fully gave up on that entire software engineering. However, my decision to come back fully into the space came after the residentship.
Yeah, injuries are so tough. I know firsthand. I've had a few myself, but none as bad as what you're describing. So it's definitely impressive that you're able to overcome that and get the MD degree and also go back to computer science. But what do you think sparked that original entrepreneurial spirit when you were young and you wanted to build things? Was it a parent, or was it just a natural interest that you had?
You never know, honestly. So sometimes you can actually tell like a good story. Yeah, that there was something that affected my life. I don't know, grandpa
Right, right.
or some friends or some specific events. So in this case, I cannot outline something very specific. So it just naturally happens, and when you start being curious about startups and everything, about the technology, eventually you may want to start your own thing and just try it out. So
Yeah.
I would say the curiosity was the main motivation for me in that specific space. So
Yeah. Yeah, no, curiosity is a great one. I mean, I know many of the great physicists, scientists, they'll say that curiosity is what drives them to discover new things. I mean, they'll say when they're writing their when they're trying to get their grant for the research, they'll say it's for these practical purposes. But at the end of the day, they just want to find out how do things work the way that they do work, and see what is it that causes things to work a certain way. So yeah, no, that's a good internal motivation to have. You're in your residency, you have the injury, and then you want to transition back to the startup life. How do you make that transition from there?
So I was just thinking out loud what I can do and what specific area feels the most prominent, and that's how I ended up coming back to the ad tech, to the advertising networks and everything, because I had the biggest experience specifically there. So I just came to my old friend that we had a lot of mutual projects throughout the history, and we simply decided to kickstart some projects that we were thinking that would be way too ambitious to do alone. And we made a few projects, and eventually we just bootstrapped a startup naturally. So we were building our own ads network, and we were working with, well, pretty much everything related to that: billing gateways, the backends, performance upgrades. We were building ad networks and backend for other companies. At some point, we built the backend for one of the biggest YouTube partnerships back then. It was like 10 plus years ago. It's an Israeli company called Eula, and all this kind of stuff. So some projects were there already, and I just came there to help. Some project we built from the scratch, and overall it was quite a successful story.
So you started a previous company before your current one, before SpeedSize. Was SpeedSize derivative of the work that you worked on your first company, or is this kind of a new angle? And I'd be curious to learn more about your first company.
SpeedSize specifically, it wasn't just like a cool idea. We started with a painful inefficiency. With SpeedSize, what SpeedSize does is pretty much the best of three worlds. It gives you the ultimately best performance in terms of timings, so loads just quick. It gives you the ultimate compression, meaning the file size is minimal, and the visual quality. Not just e-commerce, but for ad networks specifically. This is something that is translated into revenues, revenues, revenues. So all 3 points. Basically, you need all of them. And that was a huge pain point for ad tech specifically as well. And we were just brainstorming. I met my CEO, Sagi Keen, while working in my previous company in Grand Media. That's the name of the previous startup. And we were working on a different project, which was related to our mutual friends from Eula, an Israeli company that I mentioned today.
Okay, I see.
So that it just like all the roads lead to the Rome, and in this case,
Yeah.
all the roads led to SpeedSize. It just it's not a coincidence, of course, but it just all the puzzles, just all the dots got connected, and it was a natural way to build a technology like that.
Yeah, maybe you guys were following that gradient descent to see what was the best startup idea, and kind of all got towards that peak or that valley, and arrived at that same product market fit there. Yeah, I was reading up on your product, and I know it's inspired by some of your research or some of your experience in the medical space, neural networks, right? The brain. How closely were the innovations that you guys came up with for speed size related to specific parts of the brain, or was it more of like a general kind of you had experience with the brain, neural nets in general, and then from that you kind of it sparked your interest. Like how direct was that influence?
So I would say that medicine and just medical technology is way closer to the general software than one may actually think.
Uh-huh.
So, and in general, studying in the medical university is quite a long journey, to be honest. It took like 10 years or something. I learned that, given that I already had software engineer background, I learned that a lot of things are following the same principles. So in the end of the day, a lot of what we're doing is just general science, neuroscience, AI. By the way, I have PhD in computer science, specifically in AI. So it's a
Okay.
mix of both in my background. However, the neuroscience specifically and AI and well, in simpler words, emulation of how the human brain works, it's somewhere in between. So you don't necessarily have to be a neurologist or a neurosurgeon to understand every bit of a brain to do that. However, having the knowledge of the principles, how the brain works, the physiology, in some case even anatomy of the human eye in our case, on how the human eye just works, that was vital for a technology like that. And I believe that not having that kind of experience, that would be possible, but that would take way longer to end up with a technology like that, because it gives you an unfair advantage in terms of what you can invent and what you cannot. So just the amount of trials and errors becomes smaller, and that makes you deliver the results faster. I would say that overall, when maybe just for the fellow startup founders, well, not yet founders, but for somebody who is thinking about starting a startup, especially now during the AI era, when wrapping an idea into a product, maybe just one prompt to Claude or any other LLM away. I would say that think of something that you can potentially do better than others, and not necessarily has to be a unicorn from the second zero from your journey.
Right. Sure. Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a good point. Once you kind of get flight and get off the ground, from then you can see what are the problems, and you can have enough revenue to sustain yourself so that you can think of new ideas and build into your portfolio of products. But so yeah, reading up on your AI, I know that it will, similar to the human body, the human mind, it'll take in the aspects of the image that are salient, that are more meaningful, or that kind of show the curves of say someone's clothing or whatever the image may be, and then compress the other areas. How does it know which areas will be noticed by the human being and by the human sight, and which ones won't be?
So there is no short answer to that question. So the technology itself is very sophisticated. So behind that technology, that there is a few patents there. There is a proprietary metric, first of all, which is one of the cores of the technology. That metric is called PVCI. It stands for Psychovisual Compression Index, and it's already getting overcomplicated. So
Hey, no problem at all.
long story short, it's 90 submetrics that give a rough idea of, well, not a rough idea, a very accurate idea, I would say, of how different the image is after the compression to the human eye. So what those metrics include in general. So besides all those mathematical, like Shannon's entropy and
Okay, yeah,
histograms, all that kind of stuff,
sure.
baseline things, it detects the objects, so it does the computer vision and image labeling, so it actually understands what is on the image. That is one of the major things that distinguishes the processing of images made by SpeedSize compared to others. We actually know what's on the image, the real objects, not just the collection of pixels. The second important thing is that it is aware of how the human physiology works in terms of the image processing, because basically your eyes are the cameras and your brain is just like a GPU that processes that visual information, and it follows some simple yet sophisticated principles. So we are very similar to each other in this specific area. Yeah, people are all different, but in the way how we perceive the visual information, it is very similar one to each other. So there are some specific areas which are highly likely to attract your attention. Like something that is in foreground is more likely to be attractive for a human compared to the blurry background. Basics like this: something bright, something in the
Right.
middle of an image, something you can recognize, text, faces, whatever else is more likely to attract your attention. And this part of an image is called the area of interest. This is like the most important part of an image. So that's how it works in a nutshell. Yeah, of course, all those 90 metrics and technicalities, but in a nutshell, it just tries to emulate the way how your eyes move when you look at the image or a video.
And are you guys testing this on real human beings, or to see? Okay, in this case, yes, we reduce the quality of or compress this section of the image, but in this case, 10% or 20% of the people we tested it on, they're still noticing some kind of difference in quality in order to kind of yeah, I guess ground the other benchmarks that you have.
Oh yeah, of course. We went fully scientific in that aspect, so it was very academic, and we built the metric on its own to make sure that the vast majority of people would not just see the difference before and after. The beauty and the curse of the process is that real people over internet, they don't know how the image would look like if they saw the original image. They only see the output. And that is also partially an obstacle during the conversations with customers because or potential customers, because they don't know what their user experience. Okay, our users do not complain about the visual quality of images.
Yeah.
Well, but how would they complain if they never saw how the original image looks like? That's one of the things. So, but overall, yeah, we did this internally. We did this with brands as well. So early in the process, early in the years, we made sure that this is entirely and fully scientific, and that we're not selling just some bubble that doesn't work.
Gotcha, gotcha. And I saw that you guys also use an algorithm that you have, or an AI that you have to serve videos as well. Is that an entirely different kind of service, or can you just break it down to frames and use the same AI that you use for the still images?
Yeah, so it works very similar. So yeah, as you mentioned, videos are quite similar to images, which is just a collection of frames.
Right.
The only major difference happens during the motion. The perception of videos is slightly different because the motion happens, and motion is actually one of the added pieces of technology that you need to assign to make sure that you properly evaluate the quality after compression. So yeah, we work with images and videos, and for videos, it's just the same technology, just on steroids.
Yeah, and I saw there's a beautiful display of your guys' technology. I don't know, is your website served by, does it use your own algorithms?
Yeah,
Because I
yeah,
noticed. Okay, I thought so, because it really shows off all the very high HD videos, images, and there's zero latency at all when I pull up the website. So I was impressed with that. But yeah, if you guys are able to serve videos so well, I mean, where do you see speed size going eventually? I mean, what's the vision for it? Because I would imagine that yeah, any kind of video service, YouTube, any of these companies might be able to benefit from this kind of tech.
Yeah, so we actually started from going purely videos, I would say.
Okay.
So we started the company with a different name. The company name was VidSide, like video site. That company had this name for briefly a month in the process when we learned that the market is not ready. That was 2019, and the video on the web for the masses was not that, I would say, quite often to be seen. So we decided that it's not time for the market yet. There was no Gen AI, pretty much. Well, it was there, but not on the production level.
Right.
Uh, uh, there was no video marketing, almost no video marketing on the website. So only very brave websites would just have fully autoplayed videos on their homepage or product pages. It was extremely rare.
Wow.
And the friction that it would take to sell to a customer was insane. The market education, the just the fact that you have no credibility, and the results were so great with our technology that people simply did not believe that this is something that is not fake. So
Right.
we decided that, okay, we need to do a small pivot. Basically, what the company was doing, it was just making sure that there is a very simple and efficient way to animate images, still images of products or banners on the website with a small, very lightweight JavaScript snippet that would just make sure that the image becomes a video. We were using the services of partners, of video editors who would animate the images, or the customer could provide us the videos themselves. We would do the compression, the delivery, and all that. So it was a full service to just animate the website. But the market was not ready. So
Mhm.
yeah, that just partially answers your question about where we see ourselves. The industry develops in a very uh, in a very good way for us. So we can see the raising profits in this specific area, because Gen AI right now is nowhere near to what it used to be. No more videos of Will Smith in his spaghetti.
Yeah.
With all the distortions on the face and everything. So sometimes it amazes me on how well it performs with the consistency, with the anatomy and everything. So we think that it will become a market standard eventually. It's almost there. And performance of videos is a much bigger obstacle compared to performance of images. So yeah, we did a revolution in terms of compression and for images specifically. But then again, sometimes when you compare even like 2-3 times faster, 2-3 times smaller than the best competitors, yeah, it sounds amazing. It is translated into revenues and everything, but for some of the customers, it's not revolutionary enough. For the videos, it's a different story. For the videos, it's not about 60 milliseconds to 20 milliseconds performance boost. Sometimes it's seconds to milliseconds. So it just moves to a completely different category of performance, and there is no tolerance, especially with the Gen Z, Gen Alpha that is growing up and everything.
Yeah.
People
Yeah.
cannot wait, and that clearly translates into revenues. And especially if you
Mhm.
force your customers to wait for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, these are that visitors. They're not converting into anything. They are wasting your resources. Sometimes they would just bounce before even anything loads. So these are just potential lost customers that you need to take them into account, because those are just added revenues potentially.
It's a great point. I mean, so many, we say it all the time, and we experience it ourselves. All of our attention spans are reducing and reducing, which is a problem. But no, it makes sense to, if you do want to compete on the ad side of things, you would need to serve as quickly as possible. But how do you know? So we touched on product market fit, which when I'm hosting my events in New York City, there's so many people that's I think that's the toughest part, is just finding that fit. Of course, you can get a general vibe of kids are have lower attention spans. They're going to need a quicker serving of images and videos in order to keep their attention. But how do you know for sure that there's a good product market fit? Do you just try it out, see what the customer is willing to pay for, or is there some better way that you found to evaluate? Is this actually going to provide value to the customer?
First of all, there is a huge industry which is called WPO. It's website performance optimization.
Okay.
So all the fuzz about core vitals by Google, those metrics and everything. So it's a huge business on its own. And for most of our customers, and we do not work with really small businesses, so we work with mid markets and various tiers of enterprise. They know really well what performance of their website
Yeah.
is and how to translate this into money. Not always they know the exact value of every millisecond of the loading time, That is rare, even among big enterprises. But still, they know that faster means better, means more money. So
Yeah.
this logical line is very clear for most of our customers, and we are lucky to live in the world where people are aware about this. The problem, I would say, is that not all decision makers can connect the dots of what exact steps of the loading of the website are causing them to lose money. In
Mm.
some cases, it may be images. In other cases, it could be videos. In other cases, it would be completely unrelated to those aspects, like infrastructure of their database, or they're using some plugins for personalization that takes ages to return the content on the pages. And with all that, there is a lot of informational noise. So I would say there is less of an issue to convince that this concept works than just fighting against the noise of the rest of the services that are very eager to sell as soon as possible, the
I see. Yeah.
technologies and all that. And especially right now with AI, like everyone is trying to push their agenda that this would increase your
Yeah.
revenues. So in a way, it may sound surprisingly, but sometimes we compete against companies which are completely from a different space or an industry. That just happens because, well, developers, software engineers of our customers, they do not always have the capacity to just do what they need to do. Even now with AI and everything, so it just takes time.
Yeah, so it sounds like the key is getting the ear of decision makers at enterprise companies that are very aware of what are the driving factors that drive their profit, that drive their revenue, both for the product market fit to see what you want to build, but then also to sell to them to outcompete the other, like you said, all the noise, all the other products being offered there. How does someone who doesn't have industry connections in that area yet, how do they break in and get the ear of those executives in order to know what are their pain points or what are the main metrics that they focus on that drive their business? Um, yeah, did you guys find out a way, or did you start off in maybe a internet forum or a LinkedIn group or something?
That's a $1 billion question, I would say. So there is no clear answer on that.
Yeah.
And there are multiple channels on how you can do this. So for something that we don't do for small businesses or B2C, so I saw quite a lot of companies that did really well, starting with founder-led marketing, with product-led growth, PLG. Sometimes it just works really well. If your product delivers, if your product is good, if it is stable, then I don't think you will ever have issues growing and making sure that you consistently grow enough attention and customers to cover your next fundraising, revenue growth, and all that. If it doesn't just go viral, it does not necessarily mean that your product is bad.
Uh-huh.
Sometimes it's just like pure luck, and
Yeah.
it's amuses me in a negative way when I see some bright LinkedIn posts like there is no luck, there is only like effort. If something is just not working, you just need to put double effort on that. Yeah, but actually it may work, but sometimes you just get lucky, sometimes you just get unlucky. You have to take this into account. Not necessarily that it doesn't have enough effort in there. Maybe it's already the maximum effort you should put there. So for our specific case, it is multiple things. So first of
Okay.
all, I would say focus is the king. So when
Uh,
you work in a specific industry, so our technology is a blue ocean technology. We can apply our technology pretty much everywhere. So you started YouTube, Netflix. Those are also potential customers of SpeedSize. However,
yeah.
we are not moving into that direction at all. You can just supply us everywhere. And early in the days, we tested the technology with various industries as well, even the military industry, satellite imagery, medical imagery, even. So we tried out in multiple industries, and eventually we figured out that e-commerce, and in e-commerce specifically, fashion, clothing brands, apparel, jewelry, luxury brands, this is the ideal customer profile for us, because those brands, they know that they care about the visual quality, that they care about the user experience of their website visitors, and they know that this is important for them. And sometimes they hit the wall of not being able to achieve the results that they expect. And in this case, a product like SpeedSize is the only way to just win that specific customer, because, well, everyone else just cannot solve the problem. You're the only problem solver for them. So the rest are not good enough, or the rest are completely out of the picture because of how bad they are compared to the expectations of a customer. So this is the ideal place to be. Ideally, you should not compete with some weak points like we are cheaper. Yes, it may work for something that is completely commoditized. Let's say just like pure CDN. But even there, how come that companies like AWS or Akamai are still managing to get this amount of revenues from CDN that is times more expensive than the rest of the market? So even there, it's difficult. So I would say that right now, the biggest win is just to find your way to explore what works and then focus on that, win that small niche, even if that's a very small niche.
Yeah.
Just win that. You will have customers that will be your showcase customers. And it's way easier to win the deal being a small startup when you have some customer that rings the bell for your potential customer. So if you're selling products to bicycle companies, and then you're trying to advertise to some sushi stores, it's going to be difficult. But when it's at least in the same industry, it's much easier to sell to a sushi store when some pizzerias are already your customers. And that's a funny way, and I hope Italians will not hate me for saying pizzeria instead of pizzeria.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. The biggest kind of encouragement for companies to adopt your technology or product is to hear great reviews from other companies, other peer companies. And I know one of my friends who has a company that provides AI services for franchises. He talked to a franchise he hadn't spoken to before, and they happened to have talked to another franchise that was already his customer. They'd already heard about the product, and to them, it feels like because they're hearing it from one peer company, and then they might have heard it from another too, but to them it feels like, oh, this product's everywhere, right? Everyone's using it, and once there's that effect of like, oh, the industry's on board with this, it's a lot easier to scale that up and convince people that it's a good product to get. But yeah, you mentioned that the best moat is to have that innovative technology that people can't copy. How tough was it to get that patent? And is it a U.S. patent right now?
Yeah,
Okay, yeah,
all the patents are US patents.
yeah,
Yeah, it is a tough path, I would say, for every kind of technology, for every kind of startup as well. First
yeah,
of all, you usually want patents early in the process when you're a small startup, and there are various reasons why you would want that. So first of all, just every single patent that you have just raises your evaluation just a tiny bit. So in the eyes of investors, it's like a validated company and technology in this kind of thing. It gives you like a very baseline protection. Well, nothing gives you protection against like lawsuits or whatever, but
yeah.
statistically speaking, it gives you some protection, or just like another card in your sleeve that you can play at some point. But the problem is that during the early like 6, 12, 18 months when you would usually start the process, your focus is so spread because you need to do a million of things and you need to prioritize that. And while you are thinking about what is my GTM, go to market strategy, when you are talking about with your co-founders about foundational and fundamental questions of the startup, now you need to do something boring in terms of startups, in terms of patents and sometimes certifications like SOC 2 or ISO 27001 because company doesn't want to work with a startup who is not compliant with that certification. And you need to just focus your attention. You need to allocate the budget. It's not a cheap process, so it'll cost you
Yeah.
probably like some double digits amount thousand of dollars for each patent, probably like 10, 20, 30, I don't know. It will probably take you at least a year to get the patent. But I would say that it's a valid strategy to at least start and file the application. So that also means something. So I would say just do the core patents filed, and then find the right time when you have the resources for that, just to finish them and to get them allowed.
Like, how do you know if because for years I've heard that if you're building something in software, it's tough to get a patent because someone could build a Snapchat under a different name and the code could be completely different, right? But serve the same end purpose. Of course, yours is more your patented technology is more algorithmic, and I guess that's the key is to have like what specific like step by step details that I guess regardless of what language you use, or regardless of what coding framework you use, that's still going to be the same, and so it can be patented. Is that the key or?
No, I don't think that is the actual way. And
Okay.
you don't patent the code of
No, yeah.
your software. You patent the
No,
idea
not the code,
or the
yeah.
concept. So
Yeah.
it is actually very agnostic to what language it uses, programming language, of course.
Right.
What is the framework that is used? It is actually I'm not even sure whether it's allowed to even like directly or indirectly mention this.
Uh,
So when we are talking about patents, so you either patents like a specific product, the idea, concept, sometimes architecture, but very rarely. Overall, you're patenting the major product concepts of your company. If the company is if the product is very sophisticated like ours, one patent is not enough. So you may want to just think how you can just slice it into different focus patents so that you don't put all the eggs into one basket.
yeah.
Because also you need to take into account that the research that will be done may actually find out that you're infringing other patents with your technology, which
Right, sure.
sometimes happens. So that one as well has to be taken into account. And I have not seen a single startup founder who did the major research on the patents before actually brainstorming on what's the startup idea they will have. So that
Right.
usually happens the last after you
Sure.
do the markets research and competitive comparison and all that.
Gotcha. And a few months ago, I was reading a book on Nikola Tesla. Back in the early days of electricity, there was a lot of patents, but a lot of claims about, oh, we actually came up with this previously, and it's something that's similar that another company came up with. It's not the exact same, but they're claiming it is. And then all these things that are of course motivated by money, by financial interest. But have you seen anyone claiming that they created something similar, or they created or that maybe um I don't know, maybe they're using the same thing that you are, but they're claiming it's different than what your patent says?
So we didn't have those processes, and I hope we will not in the future.
Yeah.
However, the concepts are either very broad or on the opposite, they're very narrowed down. Some of the things like general things, let's say psychovisual compression as a concept. We did not invent that for sure. It's been there for many years, that way or another way. So it's been there, and there were metrics which were there. Yes, they did not perform well and all that, but it's not that we are the pioneers of the entire approach. So that's something, and I'm not even sure whether the entire approach as is patented by anyone, because there are so many patents in the industry which are just tackling one specific point of that, one specific approach to evaluate the psychovisual compression or psychovisual quality for the human brain. So yeah, another problem is that whether you want, even being not an early stage startup, to spread your attention on trying to find who you want to sue on infringing your technology. So,
Yeah.
which is another point. Early in the days, there was a company called Compression.ai. So, from what I know, and actually I haven't looked up what's the status for them for quite a while now. So we were just having them above the radar for quite a while. They started somewhere around 2020, so roughly like half a year or 1 year after we did, maybe earlier, I don't know, but that's when we noticed them. And we were a bit concerned because they were doing something conceptually close to us, and eventually we grew way faster. And from what I heard, they did some pivots to some other products and everything, and the concept of the psychovisual compression just died as is
Oh wow.
for them, and they just went bankrupt or whatever else. Hopefully they didn't, because it's a great industry, and so that's it. They didn't patent anything from what we know, and the concept for them was just a dead end. Similar things happens with some bigger companies like Cloudinary, which is a unicorn. And yes, they also did a pivot to more of a like DAM platform, digital asset management, where you practically just upload, download, and manage your images and videos. However, they had some interesting technologies that they were trying to develop, like they were developing their own metric, also slightly later than us, like half a year, 1 year. So it felt to us that at some point there was a critical mass of new technologies and even startups just appearing with very similar concepts as ours. So there we were concerned. And
Yeah.
yes, we were monitoring whether they're actually trying to patent something or not, whether they infringe our patents, and everything. But after a certain point, you just simply, well, let it be. Unless something becomes really big that is really hurting your business, you don't really care, to be honest. And you don't want to end up in the court just to destroy another small startup
Sure.
that was very similar to you 5 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, good to maintain that kind of sportsmanship and yeah, I mean it's only going to it's not going to serve you anyway to get into some long lawsuit with some smaller companies. So that makes sense. But yeah, I'm so curious why what do you think it was why the other companies, the bigger company and the other startup, why did they lose that trail? Everyone knows that the ad industry is very lucrative. To be able to serve images, quickly, it matters a lot. What do you think caused them to lose the trail, or was their technology not good enough where they had trouble selling it because it was not able to serve those images fast enough?
With compression AI and some other smaller companies, the issue was in the product itself. So when we
Yeah.
were testing, even back then, our technology was way superior. It's
Oh,
nowhere.
okay.
It was so much better that we were not even concerned, to be honest. From the product perspective, a lot of them were just not performing well. And
Yeah.
when I'm saying that, okay, SpeedSize does something times faster, times smaller, whatsoever, and sometimes it's not enough, think of those other companies that were not even in the categories of times better and times faster, like 10% smaller, 15% faster. Good
I
luck
see.
winning any kind of significant customer on that, because
Yeah.
they're just like, so this requires us to get an additional budget usually, because it's almost never cheaper to apply more computing and something know-how, like new technology somewhere. It's usually an added budget. So at best is going to be the same price. Above that, you also need to deploy a startup which is very new. So you have to take the risks of just using
Yeah.
technology that can just, you don't know what's happening on their backends. They may have like 20 backdoors, and at some point your entire website will have no images and videos being shown. So you never know. So the risks. And you also need to allocate the added dev hours to integrate that platform. And sometimes it is so painful to do that people are like, we don't need that. So
Forget
the
it. Right.
price is not actual product price. It is all the rest of the resources that we need to allocate to actually start working with them, to educate the uh, employees to use this new technology, to integrate this, to all that headache. And people just give up. They don't want to do this. And
Yeah.
it's not a headache for a potential customer to make something 10% faster. It's a headache for them to make it twice, 3 times faster, or sometimes even 10 times faster. So
Yeah.
it just increases your chances to solve the problem for the customer within their expectations. And if you don't just deliver, you don't get purchased as a product. Simple.
Yeah.
For the big guys like Cloudinary, I actually did not know what happened there. So I assumed that how it happens, and Cloudinary was not that big. So yeah, it was multi-million annual revenues company for sure back then. So it was a very successful company already and all that. They were probably not yet a unicorn, but still quite a significant player on the market. However, I think that what happens within companies is, again, the focus. When you have a
Yeah.
product and then you have your R&D, specifically the innovation department, and they start experimenting and everything, at some point it's all about the decision of the C-levels, of the boards, of whoever else stakeholders, when they're like, okay, so the risks are way too big, and that will require us to rebuild the core of the product. And unless you are in a panic mode that you need to change something, you need like a major pivot in your product, this doesn't happen. And with Cloudinary, they shifted away from the compression and they moved closer to the DAM business. So that could be the reason. So, but I did not know, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, what makes sense what you said before, that you really have to have provide a lot of value to the customer in order to kind of reassure them that even if there are some tough spots with integrating, or if the startup being a startup is a little bit unstable, that they still have enough room left over to benefit from your product. So that makes a lot of sense. But it's amazing that you guys are able to come up with such an innovative product that's so much faster than the others. Would you mind like walking through if you guys have like a process for thinking through how to come up with a better algorithm? Like how did was it kind of a scientific process? How did you come up with such a more efficient process, or was it just trial and error, try things out and kind of use heuristics to pare down the number of different options you're looking at?
So I would say that it is a mix of all of the above.
Yeah.
We're just like and there is no right proportion to actually make it work, because it's like mining a Bitcoin that you may just get lucky and do this
Yeah.
from the
Yeah.
first time. It's all about the statistics, about the chances to do that. I would say that the weighted approach is much better because it saves you so much time on just going into the dead ends that it just raises your chances of ending up with something that is polishable and something that is really able to achieve you the results that you were expecting, that I couldn't imagine myself as well.
Sorry,
So
what's the weighted approach? Like you're
weighted
saying,
approach
yeah.
is just basically, in simpler words, is just that you have a problem, and then you just brainstorm on the variations of the potential solution for that problem, and then
Okay,
you kind of rank them. What is highly likely and what is unlikely to solve that problem,
I
and then
see.
you kind of prioritize them. So you filter out some of the non-working concepts at all, but not entirely. So one of the ideas and concepts is that you need to doubt everything, including yourself. So
Uh,
you need to do a lot of research. You need to do a lot of experiments and everything. The performance optimization industry is all about that, to be honest. It has to be both curious, doubting, and experimenting all over the place. So these are, in my opinion, are the biggest mistakes which are done early in the process, is when there's just like unfocused spray and pray, and eventually you just get exhausted if you were not lucky to find it early on. it
yeah,
it starts to getting depressing. It's like nothing works.
sure.
And if you are not prone to those kind of issues, unfortunately this is the fastest way to just give up.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, to prioritize what you the branches in this branchial space, these different options you're considering, what you consider to be the most likely, and then of course you need to have a model of what is likely. So that's like a separate thing, I guess. You have to maybe develop an intuition for. I guess you'll get to know it as you proceed. But yeah, it's so interesting. It sounds so similar to finding some kind of some physics equation or something. Like they try all these unique ways of thinking about things. Doubt your intuition. You always have to be skeptical. So it sounds, in a way, it is very. You are finding some mathematical, efficiency to be able to do something, which is I was listening to a podcast recently about a guy who works in actually the biospace, and he talks about how he's amazed how life always finds these kind of numerical exploitations, right? These efficient ways to maybe uh, just based off the way numbers work, right? Ways to do things, and it's almost like you guys are doing something similar to that. You found some efficient way to quickly compress and serve these images. But yeah, very interesting stuff.
And some of the things again about like doubting everything. I cannot quote it like quote unquote from Henry Ford, but it's something about which is, by the way, sometimes they just on the internet they say that it was just initially said by Einstein about doing the same thing and expecting different results.
Yeah, yeah.
It was not, by the way.
Oh, okay, I didn't know that was fake news. Yeah.
Yeah, there was very similar one said by Henry Ford as well. The idea is the same. So that's like if you do something and it doesn't work and you expect different results over time, you're doing something wrong. In a way, right now, it's not working as that, to be honest. So sometimes the market isn't ready for your technology and product as well. It does not mean that you have to stop doing that and it will never just work. It means that you need to just have like a short break, like you need to pause, so like to zoom out and think where you can actually apply this technology or how you can wrap it to sell properly or all that. But it does not necessarily mean that what you're doing per se is wrong. So we saw that a lot with other startups that were way too early for the market, beautiful technologies,
Yeah.
but they didn't work because they were way too early. And then they started to bring chaos internally, and eventually they just decide, okay, we failed, we need to go bankrupt. Sometimes it doesn't work, but on the contrary, it's not necessarily mean that if your startup doesn't work, you need to die with this startup. Sometimes it's just like a balance. So I would say that listening to podcast guests is not always helpful. So don't
Sure.
trust anyone, me myself as well, and just try to think more about what can potentially work. Very cliche to think out of the box, this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with it. It's very easy to take advice, especially someone that's done well at something. But I always think to myself, don't give it too much weight unless they did the same exact thing that you're doing and they just did it, today or yesterday, because things change so quickly and the solutions change from problem to problem. So unless they did the exact same thing and it was very recent, then things may have changed. So definitely good advice there. Bad advice I will take. Yeah.
Yeah.
um, and so so many things have gone well. You found this of at how many how big of a solution space you found this one solution that allowed you to serve images so quickly, and things have been going well for you guys. But what was the biggest challenge so far? Has there been one part that you thought you wouldn't be able to get past, and then finally you guys are able to overcome it?
The biggest challenges were actually challenges that we could not affect ourselves. So we started the company in May 2019. So 2019 is the year when COVID started.
Yeah.
So 2020 was very tough because we were planning to open the office to scale and all that kind of stuff, and boom, immediately everything is shut down, and it changed everything in terms of sales and everything. People started working remotely. You had to adapt. We have a very, very, very good statistics on the churn rate and everything of the employees. And we had to fire one of our developers
Mm.
early on just because the guy could not adapt to the remote way of life,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
because our devs were in the office and they like the atmosphere and everything, then suddenly everyone has to start working remotely. So it was a big challenge. We were thinking about how we can adapt. We decided that we need to wait a little bit with the sales, that we need to raise a little bit more money before we start the sales, and we need to polish the product, because this is a product with a lot of high expectations, and you cannot afford this product to be unstable.
Yeah.
So we that's why we spent 2.5 years on just polishing the product and making sure that
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
we can actually deliver. And we were having some minor sales, like beta sales. So we were just getting some single customers, just to people who are open to have the experiments with us. Then the full scale invasion of Russia happened in Ukraine. And we had roughly half of our company in Ukraine.
Yeah.
And that happened 1 month after we started our sales officially.
Oh,
So that did
that's
not
rough.
help at all. That did not help a lot,
Yeah.
for sure. And that was a very tough time for us. And well, that practically paralyzed our R&D for some period of time, and myself as well. So it's really difficult to think about startup when you have rockets flying above you and all that. So it's just something that we had to adapt to the new reality, and we had to do some decisions to somehow to adapt. There were the electricity outages, so blackouts. We had to organize to purchase the batteries for our developers in Ukraine, and it was not about the money; it was about the supply. It was so
Yeah.
difficult to find those because everyone was trying to buy them, to purchase them, and all that kind of stuff. So it's been quite hectic times, and we managed to adapt. But yeah, it was very difficult. Then in 2023, we had roughly one third of the company in Israel, including one of our offices. And
Yeah.
then on October 2023,
Right.
shit hit the fan in Israel. Sorry for my language. So as well, we had a few guys drafted to the military, of course, and all
Okay.
that. So it also didn't help us. So all these kind of things you cannot affect them, and you need to somehow adapt to the new reality, and you need to choose whether you want to adapt or you give up at some point. Not always it's the right choice to actually try to fight, and sometimes it is easier to give up. In our case, we believed in the technology and the product so much that we and well, turns out that it was true, that we had a clear idea that this company will survive no matter what. So if tomorrow the dinosaurs or aliens would attack us, we
Yeah.
would sell our technology to dinosaurs and aliens. So we were very confident about that, and that is the only reason why we survived.
Gotcha. Yeah. No, it's amazing that, I mean, through all of that hardship, unexpected, crises, that you guys were able to still make it out. And yeah, a lot of times they say, when there are stress tests like that, or there are tough times, that it forces you to innovate, or to come up with new solutions. Like even in Ukraine, with the war, drone warfare, a new innovation there. Do you think that this caused you guys to in some way adapt in a way that actually improved things? Like, did you find some new way to operate that's more lean, or um, some other way that enhanced your process?
I would say that it did not change the way how we work dramatically, but
Okay,
it changed the attitude towards how we work. So we
I see.
started to pay attention to details more, in terms of, yeah, now you have to take into account that some of the guys may just suddenly get a blackout,
Yeah,
and that blackout may last so long that the batteries will not survive that either, and they may not have the possibility to charge their laptops, or even have some basic I don't know, water supplies, because sometimes the water stops in the apartment. So with that, you have to be very sensitive. And we never had the culture in the company that everyone, especially for the developers, that everyone has to go 9 a.m. to 5 or 6 p.m. We never had this. But when all that started, when the war gave us the new reality, we started being more sensitive and being more supportive to each other. And sometimes terrible things have to happen for you to open the eyes and to reevaluate your values, the life priorities, and everything. So that's brought us to some enlightening from that unexpected perspective. So yeah, like terrible things may just open your eyes to beautiful things.
yeah, yeah. And I would imagine, I mean, once you have made it past, this bottleneck, two wars, people leaving the company. Once you made it past that point and you survive, I mean, it must really give the whole team a lot of confidence. Like, if we made it through that, then there's no way there's going to be something ahead of us that will be tougher than that we can't make it through. So I would imagine it would sort of like create sort of a robust attitude that you're not going to, no matter what else comes down the pipeline, it's not going to shake you guys too much.
Yeah, so that affected us. One thing that was actually quite significantly affected is that we rethought the entire budgeting in our company. So one of the major things that we decided to do is we decided to make sure that no matter what happens, uh, I don't know, World War III, God forbid,
Yeah,
whatever, we have to make sure that we can survive pretty much infinitely,
yeah,
so that we do not need to raise the money from the investors in like 6 to 12 months. And we put a lot of efforts to make the company break even. So that costed us 1 year of not showing the expected VC growth, which is 2 to 4 times year over year growth in annual revenues. That
okay,
costed us that 1 year to have growth smaller than that. But
yeah,
we managed to cut our costs by more than 2 times. we optimized everything. We optimized our costs, our expenses, everything. We hired the right needed people. We did not stop hiring. We did not fire anyone. Layoffs is not an answer. So we just optimize the expenses on where it doesn't work and where you can actually put the efforts of your, let's say, developers or whoever else, just to make it more efficient, to spend less, having at least the same results, ideally better results.
Yeah.
So sometimes you just need to do that one step backwards, cliche, to make two steps forward. But this is probably the only major thing that affected us. So it
Yeah.
changed our mentality in a manner that we need to be responsible, because we know that for some of the guys, losing their job during the wartime may mean a lot.
Yeah.
So for other guys, just especially now during the AI era, when people started having the anxiety about, well, the imposter syndrome, when you think that you're not good enough
Right.
and all that. So it
Yeah.
just adds up to the background noise and all that. So the attitudes in that perspective changed for sure.
Right. Yeah, no, that's amazing that you guys were able to not fire anyone, not lay anyone off. Recently, I was reading the biography on Elon Musk, and so many of these guys, him especially, they're so tough on their employees, and if the employees aren't performing, they get let go, they get fired, and it always seems so ruthless, and even the way that they treat their employees is not very kind a lot of the times. But it seems like you guys maybe have a different culture. And I'm always curious for a $1 billion company, does it have to be ruthless like that, or is there another way to to have a to build up your employees rather than tearing them down and in order to like in an exploitative way get the most out of them?
I truly hope that at that point, when we become that tier of a company,
Yeah.
I don't have to learn this the hard way, that this is the
Right.
only working way.
Yeah.
I would say that a lot of those current billionaire visionaries, they were saying similar things to mine, that we have this culture and yada yada yada, we're
Yeah.
great fluffy guys. And
Right.
then they grew bigger, and then they started laying off like 30% of the company for
Yeah.
whatever reasons. So it happens all over the place. So I think that the looking at that from my current smaller perspective
Yeah.
is probably uh, they over hired personnel and employees to
Mm.
later learn that, okay, we did a little bit more than we had to. And then instead of properly just optimizing that or reorganizing something, they were like, okay, we don't know how much it was, we just lay off randomly this amount just to cover the budgets or whatever.
Right.
And whatever happens, we don't care, because the budget at this point is the king for us, and the rest, well, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's true. Yeah. Maybe there is a bit of like laziness or carelessness there. They just want to get the budget covered, not optimize every knob and dial. But yeah, I appreciate that optimism that you guys will break that trend and hopefully try to like yeah, not I mean, even if you lay off some employees, as long as you're not tearing them down and insulting them like some of these guys, then that would be fine with me. It's because it's understandable. If the whole company goes down because you can't lay off people, then that's worse for everyone. So at least that there's something there. But yeah, ideally no layoffs either. But if you were talking to an entrepreneur that's starting now, what's the most valuable piece of advice that you could give them that would save them, a year of their life, maybe more than that, that could really accelerate their process?
I would say that I would give actually three advices. Number one is to make sure that when you build a product, that you look more from the first party perspective, either investor, which is very important early in the days, or the customer, ideally both, because if you are not attractive for the investor and your product model and your startup model implies that you cannot survive without investors. Well, uh, that's something that you don't want to be in. Second advice I would say is do not try to build something that sounds like a bright idea, but everyone else is doing that. Please do not build another AI agent doing some basic stuff.
Yeah.
Just learn that there are already 100 other startups that are doing that, and you can just achieve the same thing by doing one prompt in Claude or ChatGPT.
Right.
So this is the second advice. The AI fatigue is real as well. So I'm telling this somebody with a PhD in AI and having an AI startup myself. It is real. You have to just follow the trends, but do not oversaturate your pitch and everything with AI, especially if there is nothing novel or AI at all in your product, just because
Yeah.
it sounds cool. And the third advice that I would tell is, and I actually said it earlier, just when you are doing something, try to find the niche that you can do better than the rest. It's a very simple, and I'm even a little bit embarrassed to say a very basic thing like that, but it is so important. If
Yeah.
your product is not better anyhow, I mean, even if at least like logo of your product is not better than, at
Right.
least like one single thing is not better than the rest, it's going to be tough, especially right now, because the tolerance to new products and new startups is very low nowadays.
Uh,
Not so many companies are willing to try the new stuff, the something that is slightly better. You will not be able to just chase all those opportunities of somebody who is okay. We are right in the renewal process with some other supplier, and we are considering to potentially investigate the competition, and we may be able to purchase your product instead. It's very unlikely to happen. Just
yeah.
sometimes you just need to wear, just not to wear the pink glasses, and just to think a little bit pessimistically, but that will help you to just not to get high expectations, zero delivery on that, and a major burnout. So
Yeah.
those are the three advice.
Yeah, no, high expectations do create a lot of burden on you, a lot of if you don't meet them, it's almost like taking out debt. And I've mentioned this in the previous podcast. And if you don't repay that with results, then it kind of it crushes you, right? And it hurts your motivation. So it's good not to you want to have high expectations, but not astronomical, so that they crush you. There's so many companies that are pursuing LLM based, like you said, agent wrappers. Do you think there's still a lot of opportunity in like the non LLM AI space? Is that worth like I guess maybe you guys have done pursuing that space? Is there still a lot of opportunity, or maybe you think of something else entirely?
There is an opportunity everywhere.
Yeah,
So I would say that AI agents and LLMs overall, it's not even near to 10% of the market capacity in terms of products and everything. You can
yeah,
still build a lot. There is
right,
just some specific niches which are overcrowded, and
yeah,
that happens naturally because that's how the brainstorming happens. It's like, what are the, I don't know, golden standards of brainstorming? You just uh, try to figure out problems which relate to you, and from there try to find the solutions. Like
yeah,
people have generally the same problems, like problem for a startup, we need to find customers,
right,
and you started playing around that idea how to get customers and everything. So now you end up in I don't know, AI agents outreach startup, or
yeah,
some, I don't know, customer acquisition, like multi-channel marketing, whatever, LinkedIn bots, whatever else, and you
yeah,
just end up with something that already has so many solutions out there, and some of them are already polished, that you cannot just find the niche in place to just grab a piece of of that cake for yourself.
Yeah, no, that's what I always hear. It really does help if you have some kind of specialty, like you had the neuroscience or the medical background, to leverage that. And yeah, I mean, it seems more and more that's what's going to be valuable: domain knowledge in some specialized area, both to train new AIs, but also yeah, to know what are the pain points that are worth solving, and to know the intricacies well enough so that you can create a good product that has a good workflow for professionals in that space. So yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. Well, Vlad, it's been a pleasure having you on. You have a very fascinating product. I mean, and I know that there are more services and stuff I saw on your website that we didn't even touch into, but a lot of interesting technology, not just the new product, but really kind of, yeah. I guess you guys are kind of a deep tech company because you really did put in research and find a new way to do things, and so that makes it very fascinating. So it was a pleasure hearing all about it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today. It was a great talk, and I really enjoyed every piece and bit of it. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. Thank you.